Hey there, this is Dr. Corey Gilbert with the Healthy Marriage Inner Circle and the Warrior Marriage Podcast. And today I'm going to answer some questions that have come up in the Inner Circle. You can find this free Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/the Healthy Marriage. We'd love to have you in there, and let's talk about marriage. Let's talk about family. Let's talk about your kids. And that's my heart and passion. So here's some questions that have come up. This one says, they want to learn more how to stay more connected and in sync as a couple. What does that mean? If you think about it, you and I live in this crazy rat race. And if we're not careful, the pace of life we have isn't sustainable. The only way that I take a break is I get sick. That's not okay. And I'm guilty as you when it comes to go. I love what I do. I'm not in the 70% of people that hate their job and are just kind of punching a clock and just kind of existing, which is sad because that's the case for, again, 70% of Americans say that. How do we stay in sync? Sometimes it's actually the kind of hobbies that you find as a couple. For some couples, that's it. You enjoy these different activities together. That's great. But careful, that's not the only way. I've talked to a lot of young college students who think, well, because we don't enjoy some of the same hobbies, I'm not sure how this marriage thing is going to work. And I'll go, careful with how you're looking at that. Because you can actually be very content and have very different hobbies. And one loves, woodworking. One loves going out and gardening. Like Kelly and I love the snow and stuff out there, and she's definitely not someone who likes the cold at all. And we have different hobbies. My wife and I went to Costa Rica a while back, years ago, for some dental work, actually. And we went to this beach, and I went snorkeling while she sat on the beach and read a book. Because we have very different ideas of fun there. We were together most of that time. We had dinner together, we had time together, but there's also times apart. And every couple has a different barometer to that. And so staying in sync, a lot of it's this word permission. Do I have permission to go play golf? If that's okay in my marriage, then that's okay. But if I don't, if I'm going to play golf and my wife or my husband's at home upset because I wanted time with you and you chose that, we're not okay. For me, I ride a motorcycle. If I just took off and just went for hours for a ride, it's fine if she's okay. It's not fine if she's not okay. This is a relationship. It takes conversation and getting on the same page, and sometimes realizing I had expectations that I didn't realize I had. And so this is a really important one. How do I stay in sync? It's a day in and day out. What's your schedule like? How can I love you? How can I help you? How can I help you have a better day? How can you help me have a better day? And you stay in sync like that is really critical. Greatest challenge is doing religion as a pair. Another question. Doing religion as a pair. Yes. Religion, not my favorite word. What do you worship? How do you manage the church part, Bible study part, praying as a family? And every couple and family is going to find a different dance to that, a different rhythm to that, but you need to find one. And there's going to be different seasons. But what's your relationship with church, the Bible, prayer are really critical. Some of you are really good at doing kind of sabbaticals from technology. That's an important one too. We just kind of say, okay, we're done with tech for a day or two or longer, to kind of give a detox first, but then some time of silence. I had a therapist, actually a counselor when I was in seminary, challenge me. Can you go 24 hours in silence? I couldn't do it. The whole time I saw him, I couldn't do it. Because I realized that I had to have music on and noise because I didn't want to be alone with myself. That's scary. And then I realized, and I want to marry someone one day. If I can't be alone with myself, how can I expect someone else to want to even be with me? Had a lot of growing to do. So a lot of this is maturing individually, but then also as a couple. I see marriage as kind of three people, if you will. So there's husband and wife, male, female, two separate people, individuals. But this third person or persona is the us. They all three need nurturing. You can't leave one of them out. She needs to be the best her. He needs to be the best him. But that us needs to be nurtured. The sexual part's part of that. Conversations, fun, play, all that's really important. And if you lose that, you actually lose the us. You start losing intimacy, losing that friendship, some of that foundation. You tend to be less flexible, which is really scary. This person said, really enjoyed your talk a couple of years ago at our church about children and raising them. Forgot the title, Talk for Couples, and thank you. I love that. I love to come to your church. It's one of my honors is to walk into a place where I don't know anybody, but to then be able to draw them to the cross, draw them to a biblical picture of sexuality, of gender, of masculinity, femininity, of marriage, and how do we do this, raising our kids and families from a biblical worldview. So I'd love to come to your church, and if that's something that's of interest for you, go to my other website, drcorygilbert.com, drcorygilbert.com, and you can book a speaking engagement. Would love and be honored to come talk with your family or your friends there. So greatest challenge in our marriage is sparking more sharing of ourselves in our sex lives. I get that. Yes. Here's the problem. Too often, that really means is I've looked at too much porn and I've watched too many movies, and there's all these things that I want to experience, and he or she won't. I'm careful with that. Marriage is not about getting out the Kama Sutra and looking at all the positions that are available and us trying them all. Now, you can do that, but if you're not careful, what sex becomes is an idol, and or it becomes a drug, where I have to raise the bar and raise the bar and raise the bar. That's what S&M is, sadism, masochism, where you use chains and whips and leather and tying up and pairing pain and pleasure. You've turned it into a drug, and you've got to raise the bar and raise the stakes. Run from that. That is not what I'm talking about as healthy. Yes, couples might do that, and in a sense, I'm not going to have to judge. I can't judge that, but careful. Be very careful. It's about the heart. So, how do I add more of that? It's conversation. All these things are going to come back to that. Negotiating, talking, playing, and being a fun part. And here's the rest of that question. There is a lack of communication of desires and romance, teasing, and fun. That's where we get lost right there. We don't need to lose each other. And again, if you come back to what I said in the beginning, you're just so busy. How can we have fun? How can we have teasing? How can we have that playfulness? It's amazing how quickly we lose that. Don't lose that. Don't get so serious that you can't laugh. Don't get so serious that you can't play or tease. Actually, think of it this way. How can we rekindle throughout our whole marriage what it felt like to date, to get to know you? How can I do that? Now, I'm this hopeless romantic. I was over the top hopeless romantic until I met my wife, who then everything that I tried didn't work for her. And God has a sense of humor here, because man, it makes me have to work hard, because her love language and how she receives love is so different than mine that it makes it more difficult. I actually think that's part of God's plan, because if my top love language is words of affirmation and touch, and that's like her bottom two. So if that's what it's about and it's easy for me, it doesn't take a lot of effort to love her. But if it's her bottom two and other two are like quality time and acts of service are top, I have to work for that. I work a lot. I have multiple jobs. I have to really be intentional at this, the setting aside time and being intentional as a couple. Yes, exactly. I don't care what your schedule is like. I don't care what life stage you're in. It takes intentionality. It's even more difficult when you have little children. It's even more difficult when you love your job and you're busy all the time, because you seem happy, but there's multiple parts of you that need to be nurtured. Are you nurturing your spiritual health, growing and reading the scripture, sitting under a pastor preaching from the God's word, fellowship with other believers? Are you nurturing your physical health, the food you eat, the exercise you get, your sleep? Are you exercising your mental health? Are you reading in your intellectual health, your relational health? It gets complicated. I mean, and you're missing some of those all the time, honest truth. So how can you do this? Your husband and wife as a priority, that role needs to be a priority. The us, that nurturing the us, instead of either siloing into your separate corners and just doing life, or constantly thinking like you're missing something because you're comparing to what others are doing and what you think you should be doing. Comparison is a killer. Comparison is dangerous. We can look at data and go, okay, that might be interesting to try, but that doesn't mean you have to or you should to be happy or to be healthy. So be really careful with that. But Find that teasing again. Find that love. Find that intimacy. Find that fun. And I promise your marriage will be in a different place within even weeks. It does not take huge changes to change your life. It's small tweaks. It's very small adjustments that make the biggest difference. And if I change, she changes. If she changes, I change. It's a system. And so when one thing changes, we all change. When my kids change growing up, it changes the whole system. It's different with the age they are now than it was when they were younger. It's amazing, and different challenges. And as you know, every single stage becomes a different challenge. And keep your us intact. Keep your couple intact and strong so that you can weather storms that kids bring you through, or health brings you through, or finances bring you through, or others from the outside. Or as I think I just saw yesterday, as another tornado hit down in Nashville and did stuff that the day before they were fine, and now there's loss and there's fear and there's hurt and sometimes even death. How do we manage this? Well, we bond together as a couple and we live out who God has called us to be, which is someone of surrender, but also of strength, that actually knows what I stand for and lives by it. That I'm the husband I'm supposed to be, the father, the wife, the mom, and all the other hats that I wear. That's what I want for you. So I hope you have a healthy marriage. I hope you want to build a healthy marriage, and I hope you're intentional at all these little things that can become huge, that you can build a healthy, strong marriage and family that you're proud of. Bless you.